Stuff. Okay. So just to let you know that this webinar will be recorded. We put recordings of our webinars on the CIWEM website, and then on YouTube when we get given permission from our panelists and speakers, and as long as there's no copyright issues either. And you could view all past digital series on youtube.com. The CIWEM has its own channel, and you can just jump into the video pages and you can have a look at all the different seminars over there as well. Um, you'll this is basically 1 hour of CPD attributable to this webinar, but we don't provide CPD certificates as this isn't CPT accredited training, and it only applies to sort of CIWEM members. But before we kick off with today's webinar, I'll provide you with a bit of a branch update. So, like I mentioned before, this is a series which is being held by the North Wales branch. Sorry, just jump back. We are looking for additional members to join our committee, so please do contact me or anyone at CIWEM if you want to get involved. In terms of upcoming events and events that have happened, this branch has been super busy this year, and we've delivered a lot of great seminars. So thank you for everyone that's been involved. Our next up and coming one is on the 26th of November, which is about reducing flood risk through storage. How does it work? And it's coming from an environment agency perspective, so that's going to be pretty cool. So do keep an eye on that. And if you want to know more about the events that are up and coming, then please have a look at the CIWEM events page. And for those of you that are new to CIWEM, CIWEM is a world chartered professional body and independent charity. If you want to know more about this new strategy and CIWEM's vision, please take a look at the new vision and corporate strategy on the website. There's other things that you could find on there as well, like the Planet Possible podcast, which I think, Tigger, you've been also participating with, which has been super popular as well. So definitely recommend that you tune in into those. The events and activities page is also online. And one of the big upcoming events that we've got is on the 6th to 8th December, the Urban Drainage Group Annual Conference, and that's in person. So if you want to know more about that, if you want to participate in that, then please do head over to the website to see prices and further details. There's also the CIWEM Learning and Development page for details of further learning and development opportunities. Again, just jump onto the website. It's ciwem.org/training, and you'll find plenty of information in there. And finally, if there's anything related to the to chartership, again, you can jump onto that training website, and there is a link to fast track to chartership on there as well. So lots of useful resources if you want to get to know more about CIWEM on the website. So yeah, like I said today, is going to be about ethnic diversity in the water and environmental management sector. So I'll introduce you to our panelists very shortly, but I have a quick presentation just to bring everyone up to speed before we begin today's discussion. So it's basically Black History Month. It's been something that many organizations across the country have been celebrating as well. Its origins trace back to the USA. Dr. Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History were instrumental in raising awareness and celebrating the contributions of a lot of Black people in the USA towards society. It was promoted in many institutions, including schools, and started off as 1 week, and then it turned into a whole month, which is celebrated in the USA in February and in the UK in October. It was first organized in the UK in 1987 by Akiaba Adaisebo, a Ghanaian-born coordinator of special projects for the Greater London Council. And October was the month selected in the UK because it coincided better with the school year, which is good. Over the years, it has grown in the UK and it's evolved. It presents an important opportunity to explore Black history, promote understanding and unity, and celebrate the contributions of Black communities to society as well. It's gained official recognition and support from various institutions, private, public companies, local authorities, schools, museums, and cultural organizations as well. It serves as a vital platform for promoting education, awareness, and inclusivity. And this final slide is for those, again, that are new to sort of getting involved with this topic and getting, to understand the lingo. A good way to understand a lot of the terminology that's been used is um, basically to understand this slide. So if we take the analogy of shoes, for example, equality is everyone getting a pair of shoes. Diversity is everyone getting a different type of shoe. Equity is everyone getting a pair of shoes that fits. Acceptance is understanding we all wear different kinds of shoes, and belonging is wearing the shoes that you want without fear of judgment. So those are the sort of different levels and terminology that gets used within um, these sort of topics. But yeah, so no further presentation from me today. And today's session format is a panel discussion. We've all finished a hard day's worth of work, so to everyone that's joined today's call, relax, drop your shoulders, grab a coffee, grab a drink. Let's have a good old chat. This year's Black History Month theme is saluting our sisters. So I have two sisters on the line today, with us today, who are two panelists. They both work within our sector, and if you don't mind, if you could introduce yourselves, that'd be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's Zarina Martin. I work for the Environment Agency. I am a project manager. I've been doing this job for over 10 years. Um, I'm from Uganda, born and a lot of my family live in Uganda. I moved over to the UK in 2004 to do a degree in civil engineering at the University of Manchester. And yeah, since got the job in the Environment Agency on their graduate training program, and sort of worked in flood risk management ever since. Yeah, that's where I am.
Thanks, Serena. Tega.
So I'm Tega Jogun, Strategic Marketing Manager at CIWEM. So yeah, came to the UK last year, so relatively still very new. I've been working at CIWEM since, basically that was my first job in the I got in, yeah. And yeah, so I think that's about me. I'm originally I'm Nigerian, from Lagos, and yeah, I'm still very, very Nigerian. I have a lot of family, back in Lagos, but obviously, I still have a lot of family here in the UK too, so that would be big.
Perfect, thanks. And for those that don't know who I am the chair of the North Wales branch. My name is Amar Ahmed, and I'm also a regional delivery manager here in Binnies, which is a consultancy that sits in the RSK group. And I have worked quite closely with Zarina as well, in our pursuits to solve flood risk in the Northwest. So yeah, hopefully you'll get to know more about us today, and thanks again for joining. So the format for today is that I'm just going to be posing a number of questions to our panelists, and it'd just be great to get their perspectives on understanding. The questions are obviously tailored towards ethnic diversity as well, and just getting a good understanding of where we currently are today on this topic and what more needs to be done to get us to a better place. So without further ado, let's get started. I've spoken too much, so I'll hand the speaking over. So the first question is, from your perspective, why do we need to discuss the issue of ethnic diversity within our sector?
I think for my head, ethnic diversity is actually a very, very big part. That should be a very big part of our sector. because, you know, one thing I do know is representation is very, very important. With representation, you'll find that the workplace becomes more productive, more innovative when people feel like they actually belong in that space. So that's what, you know, having a whole lot more diverse workforce will actually do in our sector. We find that we're able to actually feel like, oh, okay, I'm working in this space and I see people like me, you know, climbing to the top. I see people like me doing amazing things in this sector. And, you know, you become more, you want to innovate more, you want to do more, you want to produce more, and, you know, just feel like this is a space that I belong in, right? So that would be for me.
Great.
And yeah, just thinking about sort of following on from that, it's a lot about well-being. So each person is important, and therefore each person needs to be celebrated and needs to be lifted up and needs to be recognized. And it's quite important that for the minority, you know, because within the UK, as a group of people, you are the minority. It's quite important if you think about equity for your voice to be sort of elevated so that you can contribute, you can share, and you know, there's a lot that we can offer the industry, and therefore it's important that we talk about uh, diversity of experience. It's important, like Tega said, that we have representation, that we are attracting the best people into this space, and without having those conversations, that's not going to happen. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Excellent. And then from my perspective as well, I think you know, the climate crisis itself is probably one thing that unites us all, no matter where you are in the world. We have quite similar challenges in that respect. And for me, I think you know, this crisis doesn't really discriminate against people. It is what it is, and it's a crisis that's affecting the whole world. And then in order for us to combat such a crisis, you know, we need to unite, and different areas of the world require different solutions and different strategies. And that's why I think diversity starts to become quite important, because it brings a lot of new ideas, new solutions from people that have observed how good solutions work in different parts of the world. Lots of good wisdom, good understanding. Um, and without diversity, we lose all of that, I think. So, for example, if we think of the floods that happened in Pakistan, you know, if you had a flood warning system like you do in England, that wouldn't have worked, because a lot of people in the remote villages, they don't have access to IT as like we do over here, or understand those kind of things. So it's very important that you have people that actually understand how things work over there and relay that back, and understand cultures as well. So there's a lot, I feel like, that goes into it, and not having you know, a diverse workforce can really hamper delivery in that respect. But again, you won't get such holistic solutions.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Amar, that you know, a lot of the work that we do even here in the UK is in diverse communities.
Yeah.
The UK is quite diverse. It's I think don't quote me that, but in Birmingham, I think is it for the first time, or is it in London, that you know there's more people from a different background to the white majority that was previously a
Mm.
majority, but you know the scales have tipped. So the UK is a very diverse country. The communities that we serve, you know, certainly within the Environment Agency and flood risk management, the communities that we serve are very diverse, and therefore it's important that we understand who our customer is, and
Mm.
which is why it's important that we're having these conversations about ethnic diversity for the water industry, right? So
Yeah.
um, we need to understand who our community is, and we need to represent our community equally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good answers. And I also feel like there's looking at the equity and equality side of things as well. I do feel like, you know, we don't want to be in a world where, you know, with the challenges that people are facing as well, that they face them differently as well, and some have to face more than others. And so to have this environmentally just world, you know, we want everyone to speak up, so that we can understand, we could together work on this crisis together, and come to a solution for everyone, and hear everyone's voices. So there's some good points there. That was really good. I'll move on to the next question. But those that have dialed in, if you do have any points, please do put them into the Q&A facility. We will go through the questions at the end. Um, we certainly make time for that. So the second question is, what makes you proud of your cultural background and heritage?
I would say a lot of things. I mean, a lot of things. I mean, I think everyone should be or is proud of their cultural heritage, because at the end of the day, the reason you act the way you act, or the way you do the things you do, is all down to your heritage. It's all down to your upbringing. And I feel as a Black woman, I do know that, oh, there are certain things that I do, or certain, words I say because of where I'm coming from. So, and I would say that's also, made me, as an African, I'm very, very resilient. We know that we have to do more so we can get more. We are always, I wouldn't say always fighting to be better, but I would say, we're always fighting to get a lot of opportunities that we probably might not even, be able to have access to on a normal day. So there's this movie that I watched, this is say we're relaxing, where I had just a quote saying, you have to be 2 times better to get, what white people are getting, And I think that's line has actually always stayed with me. So in everything I do, in everything I put my hands to do, in everything I set my eyes on, I always go, I need to be 2 times better, doing this. So I would say that also has helped me, that spirit of excellence is something that I need to be 2 times better so I can do this. I need to do this so that, I can get this, so I can achieve this. So that's all, I'll say that's all part of my cultural background.
Yeah, and just from the audience's perspective as well. So what just in a bit more detail, what is your cultural background and
Oh,
heritage? Yeah.
Okay, I'm Nigerian.
Yeah. There you
I'm
go.
Nigerian.
Excellent.
And as Nigerians, there's so many, we have a lot of stereotypes already that we have to actively try to act against that. Oh no, there's Nigerians are this, and then we always have to be on our good behavior. So we are not adding to the stereotype of what Nigerians are expected to do, basically.
Well, thanks for that, Tega. And Zarina?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I'm Ugandan, proud, Ugandan and proud. In fact, I always insist to my children who are, um, part Ugandan, that we are Ugandan first before. No, very proud to be Ugandan, of course. We have a term, not just in Uganda, but it's sort of like a South African term that's sort of embedded in different parts of, Africa, which is Ubuntu, which is one of the things that I love about, my culture. Ubuntu means I am because you are, and it's a real community thing, right? Relational. I find my culture very relational, very community minded. We look after each other. And even though I am, so many miles away from Uganda, I still have family here, which is not my blood family, but they are still my family. And that's what I love about my culture. Oche, I'm very proud. But I am also learning to be proud to be British, because I'm now dual citizen, and it's something that I'm learning about, and obviously in my children, I celebrate that about them. But there's certain things that I love about being here, about the culture here, that I'm trying to weave into what makes me me.
Excellent. From my perspective, I'd say, like, I was born in I was born in the West. I was born in the Republic of Ireland, moved to England when I was very young. So my sort of my background is quite mixed. So my parents, they came from Pakistan, but I've not spent a lot of time there because unfortunately I get ill every time I go there. So my stomach just can't handle some of the food, unfortunately. But it works for everyone else, so I get very jealous. But yeah, that's so I've got quite a mixed background from that perspective. But what makes me proud is that religion plays a big part in our culture, and I always say I'm a Muslim first and then everything else afterwards. And what I love about, the culture that I belong in is that everyone's referred to as brothers and sisters or uncles and aunties. And I know a lot of other cultures do the same as well. And what I like about that is that you sort of feel a responsibility or a unity with everyone. And so, you have this like one team type feeling. Putting politics and political leaders aside. But yeah, that's generally what I'm very proud of when it comes to our background and culture. But some very, very nice answers there. Thank you very much for that. So the next question is, why is diversity important to your organization? And name one thing that your organization has done to improve diversity.
Yeah, so I work for the Environment Agency. I know it's important to the Environment Agency because I know there has been a lot of survey, discussion, plans put in place around celebrating diversity, around making sure that our workforce, whoever they are, wherever they're from, feel valued, they feel seen, they feel like when they join the organization, they're able to thrive. So they don't sort of join and remain at the same level for the rest of their career, but are able to sort of see a route through to director, even chief exec. So I know it is important to the organization, and I think that's because they value people. And all people, and they recognize that the experience of some people, because not all people's experience is the same, so the experience of some people is different and is perhaps not always good, and they recognize that and sort of try and sort of have conversations and put in place measures to make sure everybody's having a good experience. So one thing that they've done to improve diversity. So it's not just to improve diversity, but also to improve in terms of numbers, but also to improve the experience of people, is the race action plan. So this is something that was signed off by the chair of the Environment Agency, as well as the chief exec. And a team was put together to sort of look at different things, training resources that are available for people, not just Black people, but people from different backgrounds, including white members of the organization. How can we learn about different things, including microaggressions? How can we make the workplace comfortable for everybody? How can we celebrate our diversity and still call ourselves part of one team, one environment agency? So yeah, that's one thing that they've done that I think is really good, and it's sort of spurred on different things like setting up of networks. It also spurred on different conversations. It's been good. It was a good first step.
Very good. And are you seeing a lot of growth, I guess, in those networks, etc. as well?
And also that that race action plan looked into how we recruit, making sure that our recruitment process targeted everybody rather than sort of one particular group of people. So we're seeing merits from it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So I'd say for CIWEM is actually very committed to diversity, embracing diversity in the way we think. In our membership base, we have like a very diverse membership base in the inclusive culture. And also, in terms of getting to know everyone, especially people working at CIWEM, getting to know everyone and how best, CIWEM will work for everybody, basically. And I think one way CIWEM does this, so apart from the staff, one thing CIWEM does that is really, really amazing is giving voices to Black people that are actually championing environmental causes, using the environment. So we do a lot of interviews, we have a lot of young people coming up in the environmental space, environmental advocacy, and CIWEM is always there, trying to speak with them, trying to understand what's happening, and basically giving them a platform, which is what is very, very important for people from ethnic backgrounds, actually.
great. Excellent. And from my perspective, so diversity is very important in our organization. As I said before, having a diverse workforce gives you so many benefits. Um, in terms of solution making, which is a lot of what our business is all about. But one of the big things that I think our organization does that I think is fantastic to improve diversity. I think it's a bit of a catch-all. I sit in this RSK Unity leadership team, and I know a few people that have dialed in are from that team as well. So hi guys. But what I love about it is that that team's super active. It's one of the most active community teams I've seen to date. And there's always stuff that's going on our sort of intranet type website, explaining to people like what different sort of recipes we tend to cook and stuff like that, what movies we like to watch, just giving people a good insight into the culture. And uh, we have this lunchtime session where everyone brings a food from sort of their own culture as well and shares it, which is really cool as well. And it's a nice icebreaker for a lot of conversations around this topic. Then, so I really love that, and I think it's these types of uh, activities are really reaching out to a lot of people and spreading the message really good. So I really like that. But what's good to hear is that between the organizations, there is that continuous effort to try and reach out to more and more people with the necessary messages. So that's great. The next question is bit of a deeper question. What challenges have you had as a person from an ethnic diverse background in this sector, and what advice would you give to members within our sector that are starting? Tough question, sorry.
Well, I think on my hand, I probably would not, like I said, I just, joined the sector 1 year ago. So, but I think on my hand, the only thing I'll probably just, mention, the challenge I'll probably just mention is the lack of diversity at events. So I've attended like quite a couple of events, and the lack of diversity, not in attendance, but amongst the speakers, amongst the panelists. I think that's something that needs to be remedied, so that people can actually Black people that are coming into the sector can actually see people that they can look up to, that are doing great things and that they can actually look up to. But apart from that, I think, well, I don't know, probably hand over to Zarina.
Well, I can speak to others' challenges. My particular one is not seeing other people that look like me whenever on the projects that I work on, or you know site I work on construction projects. So some of the sites that I work on, I'll be for a long time prior to sort of about 6, 7 years ago, I would be the only female on a construction site, and I would be the only Black female then as well on that construction site. And then over time, I've started to see quite a big difference, or a quite positive difference in that I'm working on sites where there are loads of females on those projects, and facilities have improved, bathrooms with more than one cubicle with properly kitted out, so things have got better just by the fact that there's been an increase in the number of people, and for all of that, the increase in the number of people from different ethnic backgrounds still been quite low. So that's a challenge being on your own.
What, why,
Sometimes
why do you think that could be?
I don't know, I think it's how we promote ourselves as an organization. Do we go out and
Yeah.
try and recruit? Is it do we make it attractive for people to join the construction
Mm,
industry, to join water and environment, management? Is that attractive? Do we make it attractive? Do we go to the right places to try and get people to sort of join
yeah.
us? What universities do we go to promote? Do we run apprenticeships, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
I think I have definitely seen, an investment in terms of trying to get more females in, you know,
Yeah.
certainly on the construction side, but is there an equal investment in trying to get more diverse people
Yeah.
in the construction industry? And I think, you know, a lot of the time, you know, it depends on the location you are as well, you know, how,
Mm.
but, you know, I live just close to Manchester. It's quite diverse, so that's not an excuse. So
Yeah.
I would expect, you know, quite an uptake, but it's not there. And I think this is a challenge that, you know, those,
Yeah.
you know, anybody in terms of any involved in recruitment, in terms of promoting organizations, in terms of promoting events like this, you know, is faced with. And I
Yeah.
guess in terms of, you know, the advice is, you know, it can be it can be, or some of our, you know, sometimes the reaction is to sort of minimize who you are, make yourself smaller, blend in so that you
Yeah.
just, you know, don't stand out any more than you already do. So, you know, I own who I am. I'm Ugandan and proud. I do quite a lot of work in terms of our EDI initiatives within the Environment Agency, and I'm always keen to sort of share what others' experiences are, to, you know, to sort of give that voice of, you know, what my perspective is. So
Yeah.
I would encourage or advise that, you know, keep, you know, don't necessarily try to blend in, make friends, or obviously create a community, but don't lose your identity.
Yeah. Be proud of who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And but do try fit in as well. So I think um that's quite important stuff. You know, I found, you know, particularly sort of in our culture, when people think of professional jobs, there's a siloed thought about what professional jobs they are and which ones are the good ones. And then there's you know, if I told someone that I was a civil engineer, or suppose in the water and environmental management sector, you know, I think their understanding of what's in that sector is already quite, you know, it's quite vague to them already. And so to explain to them like how our field works and the different services, and then, you know, how one could progress in the field as well, I think that is just another step in explaining it to everyone. So for me, it's almost like you know, in order to try improve sort of diversity in our organizations, I feel like you touched on a really good point. It's about, are we going to the right places to speak to people about this? And it could be that, you know, I know a lot of companies and organizations do a lot of STEM work, for example, but, you know, it depends. Are some important diverse schools being missed out and things like that as well? So that's a
Or
very good
in terms
point.
of who's going out to do that STEM work, you know, who is going out? Is there representation?
Yeah,
Because a lot of the time,
it's
if
a good
somebody
good point.
sees, you know,
Yeah,
uh, who has come, you know, and is it exciting? You know, it's very,
yeah,
our work is quite interesting. It's very um relevant, you know, and we need to sort of
yeah.
market it as such so everybody sees how important it is and how I mean, we could get paid more. That might make a difference, but yeah.
I think that's a conundrum in every
Yeah.
sector, isn't it? Um, so, from my perspective as well, in terms of like the challenges that I face, I think I've probably had less challenges than others because the fact I was born and brought up here. Um, I have you know, witnessed people coming from completely the other side of the world, and this is after they had actually qualified their degree, and they've come here and they've been picking up work. And I think the culture shock, I think, took them a bit of time to get used to. I think what I found is within our sector, everything's very prescribed. You know, there's a lot of guidance about how you'd have to do certain things. So there isn't a lot of you know, um, uh, you can't really go outside the box too much at times, I find. And then I think the other thing is about there's absolutely loads of jargon. There's a very particular lingo that we have to speak when we put certain business cases and things like that in certain reports in. And I think that all of that and the point that you made, well, both of you made, Zarina and Tega, that you haven't necessarily seen anyone like yourselves in the sector. I think that can all become a bit alienating to people. But yeah, that individual, he ended up doing really well in the end. And I think what he found at the start was a struggle with the jargon, the way of writing and stuff. But I think when he was allowed to do problem solving, he was phenomenal. You know, I've never seen problem solving like it, and I haven't even to this day seen anyone solve those problems that fast. Um, so my advice would be that, you know, be open to people when they come into our sector, invite them and bring them and work with their strengths, but also, you know, allow them to settle and give them that space to really flourish. I think that's, you know, the advice that I'd probably give. And when people can see other people going through the system like that and progressing, I think that gives other people the confidence that they can do it too, which is yeah, which would be really nice. Excellent. So good discussion there. The next question is, and I think this is the last one before we uh have a look at the question and well, the Q&A facility basically to see what questions everyone's posed. But what more needs to be done to improve ethnic diversity within our organization sector? So we've touched on it a bit. So name one thing that your organization could do to improve ethnic diversity and to improve the experience of those from different backgrounds in the workplace.
Coming from the event side, we at CIWEM, we organize a lot of events, you know, already. So I think one thing that which I also made, you know, like made it like a core of one of my duties to ensure that for the events that we're pushing out, I think starting from next year, you know, we want to ensure that diversity is like at the forefront while we're doing the planning, so that by the time we get to the event, people can, you know, when people come for the event, they see a diverse pool of speakers, a diverse pool of panelists. So that's one thing I know that we're already working on in-house. Yeah.
Great.
And then also about, you know,
sorry, no, carry on.
Also about, you know, the company being, I think, you know, company being open to maybe the struggles of, you know, people that are just actually joining, trying to fully understand, you know, how they've been coping, you know, how is it going, how it's been since they joined. I think that's another thing that we could also look like. And then also creating like a workplace culture where everybody feels they can share and not be judged for, you know, what they're sharing. Kind of like a place for you to vent or rant or about something and then not feel like you're being judged, or not feel like, oh, the public feel like I'm too sensitive or something. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
Yeah, I think, yeah, in terms of improving the experience, I certainly think more opportunities to celebrate, you know, different cultural events. So looking at, you know, Eid, you know, looking at, you know, different events basically. You know, what can we do to celebrate who you are, and bring a little bit of who you are into the workspace, because a lot of people, or a lot of the time, it's like I'm in the job to do my 9 to 5 and then go home. But I think we shouldn't disassociate, you know, who we are, bring that sort of flair, that sort of color, that, you know, in all aspects. And I think that starts with the workplace sort of enabling you to sort of be able to represent that. So I like the idea that you shared before, Amar, about like the food thing, you know, like bring and share, and so it gives the opportunity to start having discussions.
Yeah.
But you know, that more celebration of events, more celebration of cultures and of people, and also sort of more teaching of other people about it helps other people learn about other people's experience, you know, other
Yeah.
people, what other people celebrate, what's important to people. And I think that then hopefully means that there is more empathy,
Yeah.
there is more inclusion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
I
it.
also think based on what Amma mentioned, I mean, about his former colleague that probably just came and, you know, it couldn't speak like, you know, the jargons of that work. I think it'd also be great if, you know, organizations can actively try to maybe do like an onboarding that, where they kind of break down some things. I think it will help people, ease into the job, ease into the expectation, maybe in terms of writing, because I mean, it's going to be very nerve-wracking when you join a new company and then you're writing and they're like, oh, they expect you to write this way, and then you probably start having self-doubts about, oh, is it that I can't write and everything, whereas you are probably one of the best where you're coming from, you understand? So it will be really, really good if organizations can actually put that part, like maybe do extra onboarding for people coming from ethnic, diverse backgrounds, and not just do one size fit all for everyone.
Yeah, I think I mean like that also could address the point though, where you join like sort of like a large organization, but you can't necessarily see someone like yourself in the office. If you got to see that side of things, maybe you'll see that there are people in the organization that are in a place that you'd love to be in one day, and you can reach out to them and stuff. So it's a great idea, to involve that in on the onboarding side of things as well. But I think from my side. Um, I've worked at multiple organizations, and I'd say one of the things that the organizations, could perhaps look at is just spending a bit more time, maybe on the one-to-ones or as a team or something like that. Just hearing a bit more about those from different backgrounds and how are they experiencing things, because I came from I'm a Muslim, and I always get paranoid about what the media is saying, first of all. So I always know that coming from my background, I need to, I'm representing a huge population. And, as you know, within our sector, there's lots of massive amount of diversity anyway. So I always get paranoid about that in the first place. And, I want to show people what we're really like. Um, and then with it, I get paranoid as well. Like, for example, when it comes to Ramadan, when we're fasting, for example, I want to make sure that it's not an inconvenience to anyone, and I want to show people that what benefits it's brought me and why we do it, etc. And so I'd love to speak to people about it and explain it to them, because then I don't have to worry what they're thinking and things like that. I just think having the space for those conversations, that would be great. I think I'd make people feel a lot more comfortable, I think. And I think giving them the space to talk about that and even celebrate it, I think that is happening. It's happening. It's moving in the right direction. But I think more of that will only help, I think.
So I think it's going to be multifaceted, isn't it? It's going to be,
Yeah.
looking at increasing the numbers so that the representation is there. It's going to
Yeah.
be improving the experience for the people while they're there. It's going to be everybody going on a journey of understanding each other, of understanding the different experiences. So it's not
Yeah.
going to be, for me, it's like expecting to invest in one to achieve the whole objective. It has to be
Yeah.
investment in a lot of different areas for you to sort of see the benefit in the future.
Yeah.
I think there was a discussion about like previously that I've had with some of my friends about like judges, for example, that there's not very many judges, and think, all right, should we give them the jobs because there's not very many, and it's all that sort of, unless you do everything, do stuff at grassroots, at the top, in the middle, cover it
Yeah.
all, you won't you'll either do at grassroots and then you're waiting 30 years and then you're still struggling to get people in because they can't see anyone there. You
Yeah.
kind of have to do everything at every level.
It's almost like a
So at
top-down and bottom-up approach.
and bottom up, yeah, and
Yeah.
middle. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. No, but it's good. I think we've raised some really good points today, um, about where we sort of are and how we're moving forward. So I thank you both very much for answering those questions. I'm just conscious of time as well. So I think we've got 10 minutes left, so I'll quickly jump to the questions in the Q&A facility. So we've had two questions come in. I'll I'll go to the first one by Sam Mehri, which is how would you embed equality, diversity, and inclusion into the CIWEM family? So I think that might be one towards you, Tega, if that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, CIWEM is, like, again, very committed to embracing diversity in the way we think, in the way we are supporting, an inclusive culture and values. So, well, and like I mentioned earlier, one thing that we do is to actually look at our way to give platforms to upcoming Black, for example, diverse voices, so not just even about, Black people, although this is Black History Month, but apart from Black people, we are looking at everyone. How can we, how can, we embed EDI in everything we do? How do we ensure that people feel inclusive, included in every activity, in every project that we do? And our diversity and inclusion strategy focuses on 4 themes, basically, which is, let's see, the first one is promoting the Black voices, having a diverse membership, having, this is based on data and evidence, and basically having a visible commitment to diversity and inclusion. So this series is actually one of diversity and inclusion series. Yeah.
Excellent.
I was just thinking then about about the question and thinking about, like, even when you go for your review, looking at the panelists that are reviewing you, because we're talking about from the environment agency's perspective, when we're doing recruitment, making sure that there is representation there so that everybody who comes into that space feels comfortable, and sometimes coming into a space where, I don't know, it's 2 or 3 panelists, they don't look like you, they don't sound like you. You can already sort of, when you don't necessarily need to feel a same way, but you can instantly sort of get uncomfortable, and that can affect the way that you deliver, right?
Yeah.
And so is there something that can be done around making sure that it's there's diversity within the review panel as well?
Yeah, I mean, definitely I have to take it back to the team to make it. So I have to take it back to the team to discuss. But yeah, this is definitely, I mean, this whole conversation is something that we do really need to also have in-house at CIWEM, so we are very, very big on diversity and inclusion. But then we need to probably, understand how best to do diversity and inclusion. So, the people we have in mind are actually affected or impacted by the activities we are doing. Right, we might be doing diversity and inclusion, but some people feel like, oh, we could actually do more. So I think this conversation is like really, really important. So, we could actually go back to the team and like, oh, okay, can we do this? Can we add this to our, to some of our policies, some of the activities we do? So yeah, I'll have to take that back.
Excellent. Do CIWEM do, because I think one of the big things from CIWEM is for members as well as, the magazines that get published, and everyone catches up on how the sector's performing and, what the latest news is, etc. Could there be something inside there, like on a monthly basis, celebrating particular people from particular backgrounds as well, for example, that having,
So
yeah.
Yeah, so I know for the Environment magazine, we're actually very, very, determined to like celebrate like different voices. We've done a lot from neurodiversity to Black History Month. So currently right now we're doing Black History Month. And even before Black History Month, we do this, over the years, like, to looking for people that, people can feel, see themselves in, basically like a representation to our members. So we already do that, but not particularly as a column or as a fixed column. It's just, very random right now. So, but maybe it's something that we can, discuss to see, okay, how can we make it look more organized? How can we make it look more fixed so people know that, okay, when they come to the environment, they know they are for sure going to see something, from, this place. They know they're going to see something from this sector. That's something that we can look at.
Excellent. I just had another question that came in. So sorry, another 2 questions that have come in. So one from Jagtar. So hi, Jagtar. Is one of my one of my colleagues. So great conversation. My point here, language is so important in anything we do, particularly when we talk in technical speak. We all get frustrated with acronyms, so imagine what it's like when English is not your native tongue. If we ignore these professionals, they will feel down, feel not included, and will impact on their well-being. So that's a very good point, and exactly that. As a lesson learned in how we could be more, as a lesson learned in how we could be more inclusive, is that we need to be patient, show empathy, be approachable, never embarrass anybody, and these little things, adjustments, really make a huge difference. So that's an amazing point, Jagtar. And my example that I was talking about my old colleague. If if I think those things are perhaps a bit more explicitly shown to him, that could have, I think, easily made him settle a lot quicker. So I think those are really good points. So yeah, thank you very much for that. Had another two questions. Just jump on to the one by Phoebe. Sorry, will the recording be shared with attendees? So it will be available on the CIWEM website and YouTube in the next few days. I can't remember what the time is to get them onto the website and YouTube, but I know it's pretty quick anyway, so should hopefully be there soon. And then another one from Sam Mehri. Zarina mentioned about a microaggression briefly. How should we try and eradicate microaggression within the workplace?
Well, how do we? I think it's difficult to eradicate, right? We can try, but I think about behaviors around health and safety, for example. Um, there's a big emphasis on health and safety, and that's only grown over time for the right reasons. And there's been a huge sort of knowledge about, why it's important, and a huge thing around empowerment of people to speak up. If you see something unsafe, say something. And this insistence that everybody has a responsibility, could we apply the same to things like that?
Mm,
Create a space where you're really empowering people that if you have a problem, speak up about it, or if you observe something, speak up about it, because often, especially with the microaggressions, they're too small. And if you do speak up, there's fear about, oh, I'm too sensitive, or I will be
yeah,
badged as too sensitive, or is it big enough? And is it something that I really need to sort of bring up? So just as a lot of time and energy has been invested in sort of improving discussions around things like health and safety, around things like mental health, you know, equally, a same level of investment in sort of creating that conversation around microaggressions, around different experiences, that will, I think,
yeah.
reap benefits.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that before I went into this industry, because I didn't know anyone in this industry, and I went into it because I was an engineer and my strengths were all in there, and I was just quite keen to help lives and do it in a different way to being a doctor. So but you always hear these horror stories from different people in the, like, for example, in our culture, you hear these horror stories where someone brought up an issue and it just has ended up them just leaving their job and just doing something completely different, and that puts a lot of fear into people into saying, I don't want to speak out because I don't want to end up like that. And I think that plays on a lot of people's mind, and it just makes them silent when, you know, you want to have that space, like you say, to be able to speak up as well. So, I think that's quite an important point in terms of giving them that space to speak up as well. Um, yeah, it's just but I think accountability is a big one as well, because what I do find is that I think nowadays a lot of the sort of values that companies show are good, but I think there's this missing part of accountability as well, where people know that when you're in the workplace as well, not only for in terms of delivery, what you got accountability towards that, but you've also got accountability towards your colleagues as well, and how you act within the workplace as well. And I think that's a big one, because I think if there's a bit more emphasis put on that, I think people would be more, you know they take things a bit more seriously. That bit more seriously, I should say. Yeah. Cool. So I think we're at 6 o'clock now. And I don't think there's any more questions. I think we've answered all of them. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that's attended today, and thank you to you both, Narina and Tega, as well for dialing in today. You've answered some very difficult questions. You've been open and honest as well. We've understood like that we are, the industry and sector is certainly making headway, but there's definitely room for improvement in certain areas, which we've highlighted as well, which has been absolutely fantastic. I think this has been really good. We should have more conversations like this, and I hope we can bring you back next year to see how things have moved on and pick this conversation up again. So thank you so much. Thank you for everything you do in our sector as well. And yeah, we'll look to catch up soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been amazing.
Thanks a lot. Bye. Bye, everyone.